health is what I'm all about. This is what I've committed my life to personally, as well as all the businesses that I'm in, all have to do with how do we help people really live healthy lives, okay? And one of the fundamentals is, of course, exercise, and that's why you're here at the Pacific Clinic. But there's way more to it than that. It's what you eat, it's the water you drink, it's the exercise you get, it's the attitude that you carry. And so it's all these things that play a role. But we want to talk specifically today about how do we focus on what we eat and what we take in, and why do we do that, okay? There's so much stuff out there on, I want to go with this diet, or I want to go that diet, I want to be a keto diet, I want to be a paleo diet, I want to be on a Mediterranean diet, I want to be a protein only diet. And a lot of people make a lot of money out of it. But you can really do it on your own if you understand the basic principles of what it is. You've got to get rid of sugars, and you got to get rid of grains. It's pretty simple. That's it. Okay? And now you got to ask yourself why. Well, sugar goes down and feeds the wrong bacteria in our gut. Okay? And it also goes rapidly into our bloodstream and causes these fluctuations in our blood sugar levels. But what happens with the grains? The grains are much more insidious, and you've probably all heard of leaky gut. And if you haven't, it's not your gut leaks out on the ground. Okay, there's none down there. Okay, I'm doing okay. Okay. It really has to do with the gut has a single cell lining that lines your whole intestinal tract. Okay. And if that breaks down, which it does, and it's not tight together like this, a leaky gut is where it breaks down and it opens up like this. And when that happens, we're designed to be like this, and those cells take in amino acids and minerals and things and transport it directly into the bloodstream. When we have a leaky gut, it also allows things like peptides, which are a cluster of amino acids that go directly from our intestine into our bloodstream. And peptides are bad. You don't want peptides because they're perceived and seen by the body as a foreign body. And what do we see when we have foreign bodies? What happens when we get flu or we get anything else? It's a foreign body, right? And our system attacks, okay? And so we have this attack going on. And so we have now these peptides that have gone through, and sometimes they're complete proteins, by the way, go through, get into our bloodstream, and are free to circulate anywhere in our body. Our body pulls out the big guns called antibodies and starts shooting at these things and goes bam, 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 bam. The problem is that it's not specific. It won't just wipe out and take out the peptide. It also takes out tissue that has any inflammation going on in it, because that's where they go. So we have this thing that not only wipes out our brain, but also causes things like arthritis. And there's a whole list of what they've now determined are really autoimmune kinds of diseases from this very attack, because these peptides that are going in to our bloodstream are causing this antibody response in our body. Wow, is right. And so what happens? Why does that work? When we take wheat, for example, wheat is one that we were not designed to eat. It takes a cow to digest wheat, and we don't have a digestive system that breaks wheat all the way down. It only breaks it down to peptides, okay? But it also supports the wrong bacteria in our gut. So now we have the wrong bacteria. The bacteria breaks down the membrane. Sugar also feeds that wrong bacteria in our membrane, in our intestinal lining, that membrane of the lining there. And so it opens up the gut and lets it go through. We cannot digest wheat. We just don't do it. It's also barley and rye and corn. Most people can do corn. But if you're starting out on this, you really got to eliminate all the grains. And they're basically all the whites, okay?
Yeah.
And don't think just because you have brown rice, you're okay. It's not, especially when you're starting. You can probably add eventually a little bit of corn to your diet. It's probably not going to wipe you out. I do eat corn chips once in a while, but it's very rare. I do not have a leaky gut. I don't have any of the problems associated with leaky gut. And you hear about these from people where they have colitis and they have all sorts of these gut kind of issues. And you can actually, most of the time you can heal them up before they really become bad and you end up with ulcerative kinds of things. You end up with things that just don't heal down in the gut, and you can get rid of it, okay? So what we do is we say, okay, we're just gonna eliminate all the sugars and all the whites, all the grains out of our diet. You go, oh my gosh, is there anything left to eat?
Right.
And the answer is there's so much awesome stuff to eat, because we have now figured that out. So my wife makes awesome cookies. Okay, wow. They're to die for. She makes 2 different ones, and they have really super dark chocolate, which is okay because there's hardly any sugar in it, a little tiny bit. And she mixes it with almond flour, not wheat. So nuts are perfectly fine. Nuts break down, we can absorb them into our system. They're not a problem unless you're allergic to nuts, of course.
Right.
Okay, but nuts are great. And there's so much stuff out there that's now got, almond flour. She uses coconut flour. She doesn't use any sugar at all. She sweetens with stevia if she wants to, and I don't even like that very well, so we don't use much of that. And that's what we have. So I brought some samples here. Here's some, for example, this is Costco, and this is an almond cracker. Wow. And if you like crackers and you like dips, she mixes her own almond dip. You can buy, just regular salsa is fine in this diet. You just got to read the label,
right.
On salsa's work and things. But this is a great cracker. Tastes awesome. You want to have dessert? This is at Costco too. I don't know if I'm a Costco promoter here necessarily, but this is keto bars. Wow. Okay. Now this does have dairy in it, so some people need to eliminate dairy, but this has no sugar, nothing that you'd find in ice cream. Okay, and they taste awesome. Okay, dark chocolate over the cover, and you eat candy bars ice cream bars, and they taste awesome. I can buy off any grandkid with these, and they and they love it. Our house caught on fire when I was a kid, okay? Did we call the carpenter? No, we called the fire department, right? We put the fire out first, and then we rebuilt the house. Okay, that's what we've got to do here. People have this fire in their gut, and they've got to get rid of it first, and then we can rebuild the house. And it turns out that you can restore just about any part of the body when you start to do this, okay? And it may need some other things. I'm big on certain supplements. For example, I think people ought to be taking D3 and about 5,000 international units a day, okay? Most people are short on B12. Most people are short on magnesium. Most people are short on zinc. If you lost the taste, if you had COVID and lost taste, you're probably short on zinc, okay? And you take 30 milligrams a day. Just some very simple things, nothing that is just costs a lot of money or anything, but these things are readily available. You can get them at Walmart, you can get them at Costco, you can get them at Winco. Stay away from the expensive drugstores. I'm a cold turkey guy.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to tell you that I started this diet on a cruise.
Wow.
And a cruise, everybody puts on 10 pounds in a cruise, right? And I said, I'm going to go to a cruise because I've got the most incredible buffet on a cruise. And I can just go through and pick all the stuff that I like to eat that fits in that criteria. My wife thought I was absolutely crazy. Okay, but it works so well because I love seafood, and there's lots of seafood, and I'll eat the whole plate of shrimp. Just boiled shrimp, not batter fried or anything. And so I was in heaven and just went for it, and she couldn't believe I was doing this. Anyway, that was quite a few years ago. So anyway, I'm a great believer in cold turkey. And when we have people come in here to the Pacific Clinic that have Alzheimer's, they have dementia, they have strokes, they have head injuries and things that we want to see how much we can reverse those. And we've been really successful reversing them, but we have to have them do the diet, okay? You have to ask yourself, there's really some things that just bother me, okay? So you have a football player. And you hear about them, they've played their career, they've played college, they've played pro, and then they stop playing, let's say when they're 25 to 30.
Right.
Okay, that's about the life expectancy of a pro football player in terms of being able to play that very brutal game. that hurts the body, and they have lots of concussions typically, and a lot of them could be minor, but they're getting repeated concussions, okay? And concussions are inflammation in the brain. And you gotta ask yourself, why when they become 50 or 60 years old, they're a mess. They're depressed, they have anger management, they usually end up divorced, and a lot of them end up killing themselves at a pretty high rate. You just look at the NFL's numbers, and the same thing happens obviously in boxing, and soccer is another one, because they hit all those headers over and over, okay? And you gotta ask yourself, well, they quit playing when they're 25 or 30. Why are they still, the brain going downhill? Okay, the brain is going downhill because of what's happening in the gut. They have this inflammatory process that goes on, and they're getting the wrong, basically peptides and proteins into the body. The body attacks. These go to the place of inflammation, which is now the brain. They can get across the blood-brain barrier and can go right to where that is, and they attack that peptide because it's not specific enough. It's also attacking the brain. And the brain just keeps going downhill and downhill. And you gotta ask, can you reverse that? The answer is absolutely you can. And we've had now football players that have come in and head injuries and PTSD and TBIs, traumatic brain injury, and they come in and we can reverse that process and actually have them regain cognitive function. And that's one of the things we do here is we measure cognitive function here at the Pacific Clinic. We want to know what their cognitive function is so that we can know that they're making progress. And there's a lot of things, and I'm not a silver bullet person, okay? Diet is one of the things, but all the other tools that we have here to help regrow any tissue, we can reverse arthritis, okay? You don't have to have aching knees, okay? You don't have to have a brain that's going downhill. You don't have to be suffering from dementia and continuing on. But it all starts typically, not always, down here. There's other things that cause it, okay? Toxins can cause it. Heavy metal poisoning can cause it. Periodontal disease can cause it. The things like when you get bit, like with Lyme disease and those kind of things can cause it. So you have other things that can cause it, but you want to eliminate the most likely cause, which is usually a leaky gut, and we start there. And if we're not making progress there, then we're going to do testing to find out if you have any of these other things also going on in the body. And you can test for that and figure out what's going on. So this is not rocket science, okay? It's good science, okay? And the science really backs up what's happening now. It's changing rapidly from what we had even 10 years ago. And it's some of the stuff that we started doing here at Pacific Clinic 4 or 5 years ago when we put in the recovery zone that has a lot of tools that can really help. Now we have the regenerative center, which is specifically targeted for people with, strokes, traumatic brain injury, dementia, Alzheimer's, those people that really need very directed health and not a kind of a do-it-yourself program. The scale is the worst thing to measure with because fat is 5 times bigger for a pound than muscle is. And so you need to be working out and putting on muscle and you'll be losing fat, but you may not be losing weight, but you'll be losing inches. Okay? And that's really what you want to do. And so you really need somebody that's in the journey with you. Okay, it's very difficult to walk the journey by yourself. Some people can, they're really strong-willed, but most people need to have somebody walk the journey. So if you're going to do this at your home and you have these problems, the whole house needs to do it, okay? Not just this one oddball like me in the house. The whole house needs to do that, and that's how that works. Alcohol has lots of grains in it, right? Especially beer and whiskeys and bourbons, and anyway. So you got to eliminate those. And you say, well, can I drink anything? The answer is yes, okay, again in moderation, okay, but wine doesn't have those in it. Okay, I wouldn't get one of the super sweet wines because they have a bunch of sugar in it, but some of the really good wines are, really good to eat. Vodka made from potatoes is okay. Some vodka is made from wheat, but you may want a mixed drink with vodka, and that's fine too. But that's really about what you can eat or drink, excuse me. And a lot of people ask that question. Obviously, lots of water. We use a water filter at home, just one that sits on the counter. Don't know if it's really necessary, but everybody says it is, so we do it. There's a lot of, I'm going to call them psychiatric kinds of problems, and a lot of them can be treated with diet. Okay, and a lot of them can be treated with nutraceuticals rather than going on some of the pharmaceuticals. And this diet typically raises the mood of people that go on it. Now, I'm not a single gun person. You've heard me probably say this before. I believe shooting every bullet I know at this thing. So if I were having a depression or anxiety, I would clearly do this. But then I would also be going into the Pacific Clinic, and I'd be going into the center that we have there and getting on a whole body sound vibration plate that has frequencies for mood elevation, which actually elevates serotonin in the brain. And I would use the weight loss frequencies, which break down fat. Okay, and it doesn't work if you're not on a plate, by the way. And they're lipolysis frequencies, and that releases fat from fat cells, okay? So I'd be doing those in addition to weight loss and feeling good. And what also happens when you're on the whole body vibration plates is that it increases the energy in every cell. So they work more efficiently and work better and heal more quickly. I know that I work out really hard, 5 days a week, and I know I get little muscle tears. That's a given, okay? But I'm never sore. And it's because I get on that machine every day, or virtually every day. Let me be really truthful, virtually every day. And sometimes I'm out of town and can't do it, but virtually every day. And I'm not sore after I work out hard, and I can go play hard again the next day. And that's unusual. Most people get sore and can't work out, and or don't want to work out because they're sore, and you can eliminate that as part of the process. I have a very jaundiced view of medicine, okay? And my brain thinks in compartments, okay? And none of these compartments are bad, okay? I like them all, so just don't think that I have a bone to pick with anyone. Western medicine, what do? You go in for your exams, you get your urines, you get your bloods, they do imaging and they do surgeries, and that's kind of Western medicine, and it's amazing stuff. Okay, then there's kind of nutraceuticals, and that's where things like chiropractic, physical therapy, occupational therapy, massage therapy, acupuncture, and naturopaths, osteopaths typically operate in what I'd call nutraceuticals, and Western medicine prescribes pharmaceuticals. Natural medicine prescribe what I call nutraceuticals, looking for natural solutions for these things. Then there's a whole new emerging arena that's growing and growing that I put a name on, just to give it a name. It's called electroceuticals, because we're basically electrical people. And there's whole books written on this. I read a couple, and they're really fascinating. Anyway, the electroceuticals are things like whole body sound vibration, which increases cell voltage and specifically targets specific cells. There's things like pulsed electromagnetic therapy, which radically increases capillary circulation, not just a little bit. There's a little motor on the front of that capillary starts going like this and just squeezes blood through, so you're delivering more oxygen and more nutrients, clearing away way more waste products, things like this. There's far red saunas. Okay, we have one over at the Regenerative Center. Okay, and far red, and they stimulate the mitochondria to release ATP, which is the energy of the cells. Okay, and it penetrates maybe an inch or two into your skin. The less clothes you wear, the better. Please keep them on in the sauna. Then there's biomodulation that works. We have one biomodulation device over there. And that actually it actually penetrates down, and it's used mainly for Alzheimer's and dementia. It actually penetrates to the 5 regions of the brain that you need to stimulate for dementia. So all these things are now coming into play. Oxygen is starting to play a huge role. They're understanding the role more and more of what oxygen and breathing has to do with helping a person be optimally healthy also. So I do a lot of these things in addition to just diet. So just be really clear. I'm not you got to do this. I got to sell you this one thing, this little device, and I buy all sorts of devices and try them. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of them I find really effective and some of them I find just total waste of money.
Right.
Okay.
So try everything.
Yes. And different people, as you know in your own life, respond to different things.
Right.
Okay. Medicine doesn't have a 100% success rate in, giving you an antibiotic for a certain bacteria, because some people respond differently to different things. And that's okay. That's the way we're made. We're wonderfully and fearfully made, and we're also made to heal and be redesigned. Okay. And we become a new person. I think it's every 7 years. Every one of our cells are replaced in our body. Some of them as few as relatively few hours, like in our eyes. They're continually being replaced. So when you're being replaced, you want to put them back in with really healthy cells, and you do that by eating very healthy food, and you get cells with healthier membranes on them and that work better, and you become a healthier person as a result.